In this video, we will look at time signatures. Here are a few examples. 4/4 time, also known as common time, is frequently used in modern music, such as jazz, rock, pop, etc. If you're playing jazz, you will probably be playing in this time signature. The songs in the Charlie Parker Omnibook are in this time signature. 5/4, you probably know this time signature from the well-known song Take 5. If you're playing classical, then you need to become accustomed to many more time signatures. We will first look at the 4/4 time signature and how the duration of notes fit into this time signature. Once we've understood that, the rest of the time signatures will be easier to understand. So think of this time signature as having 4 beats, which you could count like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Usually the first beat has an accent and a third beat to a lesser degree. However, you can change the beats that have accents to give a different feel to the music. Having that in mind, let's look at the duration of these notes within this time signature. The first note is called a semibreve or whole note and will last all 4 beats and will sound like this. The next note is called a minim or half note and is half the length of a semibreve, so you can fit 2 of these notes in the space of 1 semibreve. It will sound like this, with the first minim covering beats 1 and 2 and the second minim covering beats 3 and 4. Notice that this note has a stem. The next note is called a crotchet or quarter beat and is half the length of a minim, so you can fit 2 of these notes in the space of a minim or 4 of these notes in a bar. It will sound like this, with each note covering a beat. Notice that the note head is coloured in. The next note is called a quaver or 8th note and is half the length of a crotchet, so you can fit 8 of these notes in a bar. It will sound like this. Notice that this note has a tail, which may be joined to other notes to make them easier to read as a group. The next note is called a semiquaver or 16th note, so 16 of these types of notes can fit into a bar. It will sound like this. Notice that this note has 2 tails. The next note is called a Demi semiquaver or 32nd note. As you've guessed, 32 of these notes can fit into a bar. It will sound like this. You can also get a smaller note, a hemi-demi semiquaver or 64 note, so 64 of these notes can fit into a bar. So to recap, if you start with a whole note which lasts for the whole bar and divide the whole note into 2, then you'll end up with 2 half notes. If you take a half note and divide it into 2, you'll end up with 2 quarter notes. If you take a quarter note, divide it into 2, you get 2 eighth notes and so forth, going down into a 16th note, 32 note and a 64 note. Now let's look at the 4/4 time signature. It consists of 2 numbers. The top number tells us how many beats there are in the bar. In this case, there are 4 beats. The bottom number tells us the duration of each beat or the type of note that represents each beat. The easiest way to find this out is to take the bottom number and put a 1 above it and treat it as a fraction. So in this case, it is a quarter note or a crotchet. So the 4/4 time signature indicates that there are 4 beats to a bar and each beat is of the duration of a quarter note. The 3/4 time signature tells us that there are 3 beats to a bar and each beat lasts for a quarter note. The 5/4 time signature tells us that there are 5 beats to a bar and each beat lasts for a quarter note. The 6/8 time signature tells us that there are 6 beats to a bar and each beat lasts for an 8th note. The time signature only appears at the beginning of a piece of music unless it changes and a new time signature is written. Lastly, let's put everything that we have learned into practice by looking at the first 2 bars of Charlie Parker's Au Privé. So here are the first 2 bars of the music, and here it is with the beats indicated. The time signature tells us that there are 4 beats to the bar, each shown in a different colour, and that each beat lasts a quarter note. Now remember that 2/8 notes equal a quarter note. So the first beat has 2/8 notes, which fills the duration of the beat. The second beat has 2/8 notes. The third beat has a rest, which lasts for a beat. We will talk about rest notes in the next lesson. The fourth beat has 2/8 notes. The second bar starts with 2/8 notes forming the first beat. The second beat starts with a rest, which lasts for an 8th note and is followed by an 8th note. This note is tied to the 8th note of beat 3, which is followed by an 8th note. And lastly, beat 4 has 2/8 notes. We will talk about tied notes later in the series. We can choose whatever notes and rest notes we like in the bar, so long as the total duration of the notes and rest notes equal the duration of the bar. This is how it would sound played at a much slower tempo with a metronome clicking the starts of the beats. Hello, I'm Ken Gowdy, and thank you for watching this tutorial on time signatures. Hope you understood everything that I had to say, and I hope you're making progress watching these tutorials on how to read sheet music for the saxophone. In the next tutorial in this series, we'll be looking at extended notes, looking at dotted notes, rest notes, dotted rest notes, and tied notes. If you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, then please subscribe. I will be adding a lot more content shortly. Once again, thank you for watching this video, and I shall see you soon.